Hope you love some degeneracy, because that's what we're going to be covering today. So, Rufio sent me his friend's deck profile and said, Robbie, you should talk about this on your channel. And I was like, all right, let's talk about some Mystic Burn in our life. So, what you guys need to know about this deck is Mystic Mine is a very degenerate card. And we've talked about we want this card gone out of the game, like this card is unfair. And, well, this is what we found ourselves in at this point is, well, the deck does well every blue moon. It's really interesting because it doesn't show up all that often anymore. I guess this card will be dependent on how the rest of the format develops for the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, we have triple copies of Lilith, Lady of the Laminate, 2 copies of Card of Demise, and we have 2 copies of Cauldron of the Old Man. So, when this card is activated, you get to put a counter on it. Once per turn during your standby, place 1 counter on this card, and then you can activate one of these effects. You can inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each counter on this card, or you can gain 500 life for each counter on this card. And that's every standby phase you'll get to ping that. So you just stack and stack and stack, and your opponent gets angrier and angrier. Then we have triple copies of Demise of the Land, 2 copies of Field Barrier because we want to protect our field spell in case something happens. Then we have triple copies of Mystic Mine. Thank you, Degeneracy. I love it. Triple copies of Pot of Duality and triple copies of Pot of Extravagance, along with 2 copies of Prohibition. You know you're calling Nibiru with this, right? Just kidding. Now, you call pesky things like Cosmic, like MST, Twin Twist, or whatever you think your opponent's going to have that is going to be detrimental to your setup is what you're going to be aiming to negate with this. We have 1 Terraforming. Then we play 1 Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell, stop our opponent from trying to Cosmic us, or, Twin Twister us. Triple copies of Dark Bribe for protection, and triple copies of Dark Sacrifice. When your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card on the field, you can negate that effect, and then you can send 1 level 3 or lower Dark Monster from your deck to your graveyard. This card has really good synergy with the deck, just for additional protection, and I think a lot of people will be surprised to see, once we got this card, how much better this deck actually became. Then we have 1 copy of Jar of Avarice, 1 copy of Macrocosmo, 1 Metaverse, triple Geometrio, and triple copies of Solemn Judgment. Extra deck down here we have 1 Trisbania, 2 copies of Link Kribo, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Phoenix, 1 IP, 1 Hida, 1 Boral Sword, 1 Utopia Double, and 1 Utopia, 1 Gaga Cowboy, 1 Dweller, 1 Omega, 1 Mega Fleet, and 1 Fortress Dragon. Side deck here we have 1 Pankratops, 1 Doggeron, 2 Gamma Seal, 1 Kumamungus, triple Cosmic Cyclone, 2 Heavy Storm Duster, 2 copies of Red Reboot, 2 Hunting Nightmare, and 1 copy of Wiretap, wrapping up this very interesting deck profile. I will say, for those of you that like to experiment around and just enjoy pure degeneracy, this will be a deck that I think you're going to find yourself wanting to explore, because it's not the same standard meta shenanigans that we've had going on here for the past chunk of time. So congratulations for this really interesting deck profile, Mr. Aaron, and good job doing relatively well with this. Now, we're going to be looking at some deck profiles out of New Zealand this past weekend. They had their Geek Cultural Championship, and the first one here was piloted by Nabo Yin. This was the first place list out of this tournament. Now, it's still basically Pendulum Magician, but we're taking advantage of the Zefra engine. And I've heard things about Zefra being on the back burner on a lot of people's agenda when they look at this deck. People like Shriff will be like, I just like the Pendulum engine a whole lot more, like Endymion's more consistent. Honestly, depends on the player, depends on the toolbox that you want to explore, but you do get a lot of options with the Zefra engine, and it's more negates to force your opponent on. So, we have triple copies of Chronograph Sorcerer, 1 copy of Distrudo, 1 copy of Endymion, 1 Jackal King, 1 Master Cerberus, 1 Zefra Wendy, 1 Zefra Thuban, and triple copies of the Servant of Endymion. And then, triple Standard Darkworm, 1 Gate Zero, 1 Tempest, 1 Time Gazer, triple Zephyrath, 1 Zephrano. Spells we have 1 Dragon Ravine, triple copies of Dragon Shrine, 1 Foolish Burial, triple Oracle Zefra, 1 Set Rotation, triple Mastery, 1 Terraforming, 1 Upstart, triple Providence, one copy of Divine Strike, and Zefra War. And in the extra deck, you get a little bit more open. You also have to remember you can do semi-guard dragon plays with this deck. So, we have one Triple Burst, one copy of Phoenix, one copy of the Heavenly Spheres, one Electromite, one LP. We don't have good targets to really revive anymore, so do keep in mind that LP being an extender out of the deck is just doing that, just making more plays for you, extending your link combos. We have one copy of Romulus, one Boral Sword, one Borreload, one Just Beat It, one Appaloosa, one Absolute Dragon, with one Yazi, one Zeta, and one copy of Dragster with one Vortex Dragon. Zeta is seeing a lot more play in Pendulums as of late. Like, it's actually kind of crazy just how much more validity we're getting out of this card. Like, the mileage is good. Then we have triple copies of Lancia, one Droll and Lockbird, two Ghost Ogre, one copy of the little sea eel. So, Pendulum effect, once return target one monster your opponent controls, that face of monster has its effects negated. And then our actual effect on normal or specials, you can target one set spell trap card your opponent controls. That card cannot be activated this turn. Now the player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's effect. That seems really good. And then we have two Sphere Mode, triple Dark Roller Hadoken, and triple copies of Red Reboot. Wrapping up Mr. Nabo Yin's first place deck profile. Now, we have a couple other things out of this event as well. We have the second place True Draco list piloted by Thomas M. Oh, man. Look, who doesn't love True Draco at this point? Like, this deck's been around for so long, it's just like, maybe we'll get something different. So this is Thomas's list. So we have one copy of Dynamite, triple copies of Ignis, and triple copies of Majesty Maiden. Do note that there is no sphere or no Inspector border in the main deck here. I think that in itself says something about this build. We have triple copies of Card Demise, triple copies of Disciples of the Draco Phoenix, triple Dragonic Diagram, triple Desires, two Duality, two copies of Strike of the Monarchs, one Terraforming, and triple copies of True Draco Heritage. Traps here we have one Skill Drain, triple Judgment, triple copies of the reason why we don't play an extra deck. 4 Skill Drains is totally fair, right guys? Triple copies of There Can Only Be One, triple Apocalypse, and one copy of the True King's Return. Extra deck does not exist because Mr. Erupt tells us that we're not allowed to have nice cards. Then we have triple Sphere Mode, 2 Dark Bribe, triple Ghost in Match, 2 Heavy Storm Duster, 1 Imperial Order, 2 Impermanence, and 2 copies of Imprisoning Mirror. Wrapping up this True Draco list. Man. True Draco. Someday, you won't exist anymore. And, well, I'll be happier. Just kidding. I think this deck is here to stay for an eternity, as it seems. Now, last deck we have here is Subterror, piloted by Iden Wells, getting top 4 out of this tournament. Now, I like to say this deck is kind of not expensive, besides extra apps, but this man went ahead and started playing Phantasmes in the deck. If you're a Subterror player, I ask you the question, does this really make the deck all that more consistent? I'm just curious. I haven't tested this out, but looking at it on paper, it looks a lot better. But, once again, I asked that question, I'm curious. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Enjoy Spring, triple copies of Phantasme, 1 new Mastrix, triple copies of Phoenix, and triple copies of Guru. Along with 2 copies of Called by the Grave, triple copies of Pot of Duality, triple Extrav, triple Super Poly, 1 Terraforming, and triple copies of The Hidden City. We have triple copies of Infinite Impermanence, triple copies of Solemn Judgment, 2 copies of Final Battle, 1 Summon Limit, and triple copies of There Can Only Be One. Now, down here in the extra deck, we have 2 copies of Link Karibo. Interesting enough, being able to toggle out the Fiendus for a Link Karibo seems like it opens up some more plays. Then we have triple Starving Venom, 2 copies of Violet Chimera, 1 Trifortum, 2 copies of Dragostopolia, 2 Mud Dragon, 1 Diplex Chimera, 1 Mega Fleet, 1 copy of the Fortress Dragon. Side deck here we have triple Lancia, 2 Pinkertops, triple Nibiru, triple Cosmic Cyclone, 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster, 1 Imperial Order, and 1 Soul Drain. Wrapping up this chunk of deck list out of New Zealand for you guys, out of their Geek Cultural Championship. So, what do you guys think about the metagame? How are you liking things? Are things really shaping up to what you expected? These are all the questions that I like to ponder and ask the community. So what do you guys think? please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, quite honestly. Intrigued to see what you guys are thinking out there. And well, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Do serene. The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a truffle shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out Vanquil40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.